Hey, Archery Talk. I'm Steve Anderson with Hoyt Archery. Today we're talking a little bit about the new Hoyt Prevail, how I set mine up, and what I do to get a bow tournament ready. I don't do a whole lot out of the box. Some of you probably go to much greater depths than me, but I feel like I always have my bow ready to work for me and prepared for every event I go to. That's something I pride myself on, being prepared and having a bow that works with me rather than a bow that I'm struggling to try to shoot. So a few things I've done on the Prevail. This is stuff I've been doing for the last 6 or 7 years. Basically, I've been shooting Hoyt since 2010. Started with the Contender Elite, and then I've had the Vantage Elite, the Pro Comp Elite series, the Podium series, and now the new Prevail. I set them all up pretty much the same. I was taught by a guy in Nampa, Idaho, where I'm from, named Troy Cyprit, and go through basically the same setup on every Hoyt I've had since the Contender. So I start with my knock point at 0. I like that because if I feel like if my knock point is too high, it can create some aiming issues for me, maybe an up and down or vertical bounce or whatever. So for me, I always start at 0, and I feel like I've never had an issue with a bow that had clearance problems. So shooting over a blade rest, starting with knock at 0 has always been good for me. Never ran into that problem. Speaking of the rest, I always run the Freak Show extended mount from AAE. So torque tuning for me has always resulted in the need for the extended mount. Your mileage is gonna vary based on your sight radius and some other things. So there's a lot of info on that on torque tuning. I'm sure you can find it if you can utilize the search function on ArcheryTalk. But yeah, for me, extended mount always works best. I've had some Hoyts where I literally could torque the bow so hard that the arrow was nearly touching the riser on the side of the shoot through. Still find the Vegas 10 ring barely, but it's far further than I'll ever torque it in a competition event. And I tend to, maybe as I get nervous, maybe grab the bow a little harder with the thumb side, but never had huge issues with torquing, usually just aiming. So from there, my most important factor is feel. I'll take a bow that feels right over a bow that is tuned or shoots a good hole through paper or a bear shaft. So when we start shooting bear shafts in competition, I'll start bear shaft tuning. And when we start shooting through the paper instead of onto the paper that's on the target, I'll worry a little bit more about my paper tune. So I can tell you this one shoots just a hair of right tear, and I'm fine with that. Usually I will adjust rest position until I'm at a point where I feel like the bow is shooting its best and grouping concentric, meaning I'm not seeing a spread to the group either high or low or left or right. And then from there, if I feel, get a wild hair, maybe I'll shoot it through paper just to see what it's doing. And I've had bows that ended up great. My Podium, when I got it shooting its best, shot a great hole through paper. My Contenders, they shot a little bit of a left tear, but the tear through paper is one thing and the results on the scorecard is another. So that's kind of where I go to feel. So I want to set up a bow that feels right for me. For me, that's about a 18.5, 19 pound holding weight. So I tend to take the cables, go just a touch short on the cables. I couldn't tell you where I'm at exactly from factory length, but it's probably no more than an 1/8 shorter. And then on the string, I go a hair long, so probably about an 1/8 long on the string. Someday I'll actually take these off. This is the first set that I've had on this bow. It's built for me by ArcheryTalk member ex-Wolverine Tom Parkinson of Parkinson's Archery in Mountain Home, Idaho. So this is the first set he built for me. I've twisted them to the lengths I like them, and someday, probably after Vegas, I'll make the trek up to Idaho. We'll throw them on the string stretcher and see what the lengths are, and he'll help me get a few sets ready and get all my bows ready for the rest of the year. But so doing that, I over rotate the cam just a touch. So what I do is I go with a 32-inch cam. My actual draw length is 32.5. So 32-inch cam for me usually out of the box yields about a 32 1/8 inch draw length. So from there I need to extend it, nearly a 1/2 inch. I'm talking 3/8 of an inch longer than factory specs. So I may end up longer than that 1/8 inch on the long string that I mentioned to get there. But however I get there, it usually gives me the feel I want. And I think feel, again, is just so much more critical. You can't really quantify it or count it, but when you've got a bow that feels right, you know it. And on this new Svx Cam, it's quite a bit different than the Spiral Pro, whereas it has a top track as opposed to a draw stop. So I've been able to have some results out of creep tuning it. Now I'm still kind of figuring that out, but what I always do with the Hoyt is go straight to even cam timing. I know a lot of guys say you should go a little bit fast on the top, and I've done that before on the Spiral X cams, and then when we got to the Spiral Pro, if I went top fast, I just wasn't man enough to shoot it. So it was pretty aggressive at that point. With this SVX, it's more similar to the Spiral X, and the top has the track. So I would say right now, I'm probably near, a half twist in my bus cable fast on the top. So top is really just a hair ahead of the bottom. And I may end up going a little faster on top. At Nîmes, I shot a great score. I had a 597, but I noticed I was stringing them a little bit high and low. And usually for me, that's just a twist in the bus cable can eliminate a lot of that. So I gave it a half twist when I got home. At Lancaster here, shot a 596, so similar scores. I felt like I shot better here, but scores are one thing. So we'll get to a point where I feel like the cam timing is where I like it, but as of right now, just a touch fast on top for me is where it seems I'm going to be at. Otherwise, not a lot of changes to my setup from the Podium series. So stabilization didn't get much changes. I think I may have pulled a weight off the front and moved it to the back, and that's just a difference in how weight is distributed on the riser, but not a whole lot different. The grip being in a lower position gives you a little bit more weight above the hand, so it doesn't hurt to have a little bit more weight below. So I did keep the sidebar in the lowest mounting position. I like to have a low center of gravity on the bow, meaning if you were to imagine holding the baseball bat, if you were to grab it by the end cap and have the barrel up, it's kind of hard over time to keep it steady, versus if you put the barrel down, you could hold it there all day. So I want the weight below my hands. That's where I feel like gives me the most control. And I'm not looking for a bow that parks in the middle. I've yet to find one, and I don't think that would work with my mind or most people's minds. So I'm looking for a bow that's predictable, gives me a consistent, slow movement. So I don't want any surprises where I'm aiming in the middle and then all of a sudden I'm darting around left or right or up and down. So just a bow that's nice and easy movement, and I don't mind seeing some. That usually gives me the sight picture I need to work with the shot execution that I've developed over the years. But excited for the years to come with the Prevail. It's hard. You win a world championship with a Podium. It's hard to grab a new bow and want to build it up. But first time I shot this, I had some good results with it. And honestly, I feel like the control I get out of this bow is very few surprises. So I think going forward, the next couple of years are going to be a fun time with it. And if you haven't shot one, I'm sure you find a buddy, find a dealer, get one on order. They're going hot.